Welcome to another edition of Unlimited. I'm your host, Roslyn Rey. Joining me today in the studio is community activist, community mediator. He has been dubbed the unofficial mayor of the Crown Heights area. He's also a historian. He's a husband and a father, and it is none other than Professor Richard Green. Professor Green, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
It's the first that you've been here,
Yeah.
and it's so good to have you.
My pleasure.
And you're also the recent recipient of the African Spirit Award.
Oh yes, it happened last week, and it was actually on my birthday, so it was like a birthday gift, and it was just a very beautiful affair. The young people did a marvelous fashion show, and the whole piece was beautiful. And in the aftermath, people in the hallway, the students and other faculty member coming up and saying congratulations. People on the street, So it was really a beautiful event, and I really appreciate it.
What does it mean to you?
It means that you're recognized by your peers, which is something that's very important to human beings, that they're recognized at the time when they're actually, most times we wait to recognize our people in history, and not when they're right here on the scene doing the things that they're doing. So that's always a very important part of my world.
Over the years, you have been doing what you have doing for more than 30 years, would you say?
Yeah, absolutely.
And more so, I understand from my conversation with friends of yours in the 71st Precinct and a community affair is that you are a staple in the community, and much of what you do is around mediation. And I'm told that their jobs would be a lot more difficult if you were not in the area. Can you tell me in what ways have you done mediation and or had to intervene?
Well, a lot of times these young people that I work with are in constant contact with one of the three precincts here in the area, the 70, the 71, and the 77. So I try to maintain a relationship with the precincts to try to ameliorate issues that doesn't necessarily have to go to an arrest, things that don't necessarily have to go through the system. If a young person is in a situation, a lot of times they'll send them to me. How many times will I get a phone call and a parent will come to me and says, listen, the precinct says that they're not going to give this young person a charge. Instead, they want them to affiliate with your program. And that's important. And then if that is the point where they do get in the system, I have a relationship now with the district attorney's offices, with the judges, that I could write a note to the judge and say, listen, this young person doesn't deserve to go to jail. They deserve maybe community service or what have you. So we've been able to develop that kind of a rapport with the law enforcement community. And that's so important because our young people, we don't want them to go to the next level. If they may start out with a violation and it goes to a misdemeanor, then it's a felony. Once that happens, it's impossible almost for them to get into the system of a job or career. So we do as much as we can every day to maintain that. So with that, I have had over the years of maintaining a working relationship with the agencies here in the community.
Well, I want to come back to your relationship with one officer in particular, because when I was speaking to him, the Officer Martinos, he spoke very affectionately of you. He called you actually Richie. At first I was taken aback. Richie, he kept saying Richie. But tell me about some of the programs that you run, that you use to try to help keep these young men and women keep them busy, keep them occupied.
Well, we do things. We have a program in the actually 3 locations. We're in the school across the street of Jackie Robinson School. We're there 2 evenings a week, Friday and on Tuesday. One of the program is ran with us in conjunction with the with a New York City police officer who's a transit officer, and then an officer from the 71st Precinct. They allow the gym to be open in their care, and we get our young people in there. My coach Frank Johnson.
Is that the weight room?
No, that's across the street. That's another program. Across the street, we have a weights room. We have we call it the Intellect and Fitness Center, where we get the young people go in there and they can do the things that they would normally do in a weight area. There's a television in there. They can do things in there that they play a lot of the various competition, because their video games are not just playing video games. They actually get into competitions with young people on another side of the world on video games. So they do those things out of there. I have a sanitation worker that helps me to do that. These are all volunteers, by the way. Then we have the headquarters, which is over at 113 Rogers, and there we do job development, and we do a very intense program to keep these young people from not going through the system.
Right.
Once they're arrested, we want to try to keep it down to a minimum. We want to keep damage control to a minimum.
And in what ways, you said again, that you're able to do this?
Usually, if we could provide the courts or the district attorney or even the police department, many times I can get something right at the precinct level. If it's not a serious charge where if the officer has some sort of discretion and not to charge a young person, instead to refer them, especially when it comes to juveniles, refer them and the parents to us. If they see a young person that's on the route to becoming involved with a more serious offense, with counseling and with mentoring and with some kind of mediation, we can keep that from going there. If it goes downtown, we have a relationship now working with the Kings County District Attorney Hines, who has made a serious effort for issues around substance abuse, things that are what he calls non-violent issues, that we could usually get community service, and that's something that I do a great deal of. I get community service youths coming all the way.
So it takes a relationship between a number of entities, yourself and the district attorney's office, and so building these relationships has been very important. It's a very important part
Absolutely.
of what you do.
Absolutely. You have to continue being an ambassador to these places, because in the event that it gets to a point where it becomes critical, then you have the way to reach out to somebody and says, listen, we have to work. And then it goes even to the courthouse, where the judges are beginning to know us now.
Right.
And we could say to a judge, this young person is not the person that you're seeing in front of you on paper. Here's this young person as a real human being, the whole body. And a lot of times these judges will say, okay, let's look at this whole body as opposed to what I'm seeing coming in front of me on an indictment.
Right.
And then from there we can hopefully get something less than prison time.
Well, Officer Martinez have shared with me that he said what makes your relationship work is that you approach each other with 100% honesty, and you're very straight up. He comes to you straight, you come to him straight.
Absolutely.
And that you have built relationship to where he can call you at 2 or 3 in the morning and you will pick up, and vice versa. Do you want to talk a bit more about how you were able to develop that kind of relationship? Maybe it can give someone who's looking today, who may want to be a mediator as you are. I mean, it takes years, but give a kind of idea of how we can go about building these relationships, so it's not just all of the work just not falling on you. So you teach us to teach others how to do this, how to do what you do.
You have to understand that in working with the police department, it's almost a different world in itself. And to have a relationship now where if it's an issue on Kingston Avenue, that they call me up, I'm going to look at that issue as in a very, I'm going to be above the fray. I'm going to look at it from a very objective perspective. I'm not going to try to get involved subjectively into it. Officer Martinez or the CO may call me and say, okay, we just had an incident. Here's what happened. I'm going to go to both sides. I'm going to hear from both sides. And I'm going to be able to now make my own judgment based on what I've heard from both sides of the issue. And that's how we have done it over the years. This is our 20th anniversary since the Crown Heights crises.
Okay.
And one of the things that we were able to learn out of Crown Heights was that information is so important in issues. And if I can get the proper information, and that's important, whenever there's an incident happening, I can get the proper information. This is what really is happening.
Right.
I can go back to my community now and say, this is the issues that are happening. This is not what's being either said, maybe even at times in the media. This is what is really the conditions.
To date, about how many young men you would say that you've had to intervene on the behalf of?
Oh, goodness. I've lost
Countless.
I'm just thinking about this week here. I'm working with 2 young people.
Okay.
One did a crime in Georgia.
Wow.
And we were able to get the Georgia authorities to allow him to do community service here with me in Brooklyn, but through the Brooklyn DA's office interceding.
Let me ask you, is it easier for you to do this based on the age of the individual? For example, if it's a 17-year-old or 18-year-old versus someone who's 12, 13 or 14, how much more difficult is it for you to intervene on the behalf of someone who is 12 versus one who is 17?
It goes right down the whole gamut, whether it's a younger individual. Usually what happens with the young people, if it's not going to go in a family court, I can get it almost out of the precinct.
Okay.
If it's an issue that goes in a family court, then it has to go be adjudicated in a court. But the older young people, we work with them. And then when they're incarcerated, that comes in a whole nother picture. We're writing letters, we stay in contact with them. I've had judges said to me, I'd be at a sentencing, and he would say to the young person being sentenced, I want you to stay in touch with Mr. Green while you're upstate. And we will stay in contact with them. We write letters. One of my most famous clients would be Shine. He just was released, the rapper.
Okay.
And I mean, endless of young people, once they're incarcerated, they lose contact with the community. And that's so important for them to get letters, for them to get care packages, to get a little, money order in the mail every now and then.
Okay.
We do that. They need to make phone calls. They'll call me. I'll reach out to their parents, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, a lot of people, once someone becomes incarcerated, they want to kind of cut that cord.
Even family members.
Yes.
And I had a young man. He was deported. I spoke to him on the phone today. He's deported back home, and he called me, and he said to me, he says, "Man," he said, "you're the only person that I'm speaking to other than my family members after this deportation, because everyone said, well, he got deported, he must have deserved to be." And that's what a lot of the young men that I work with, my idea is that they have a great prevailing value in them, and society sometimes overlook it.
Well, what would you say to society? What would you say to people?
I say, look at me. I come out the same zip code. I grew up in these same streets. I went through all the same drama that these young people go through. I had a good coach. I had the boys club. I played basketball, and things like that kept me around. And I said again, I went to school right up at Lefferts, and I had an after-school program that I went to that kept me on the straight and narrow. So those are the things that I try to provide for my young people. Come at night. Come and see our center at night. You have a gym full of young people in there, and if I kept it open until 12 midnight, they'd be in there. And the various, the political leadership in the community, they help, to facilitate it. I think one of your guests will be Senator Adams. He's done some things with the young people.
Okay.
So we kind of get a kind of a tandem going. If they can't get it here, they'll get it there, and I'll call him up and says, I have this young man, he's upstate, he needs help.
Right. He
said, well, give me the information. And these are the things that a lot of times don't show up in the box score because people are not really aware.
Why do you think that we try to distance ourselves from the formerly incarcerated or the incarcerated? Why do you think we
Society has a way of sometimes saying if they've done this, they deserve this. They're not, most of the time, I say the majority of the time I meet with my young people, they're not deserving of these things because they see in the media, they see somebody will move a couple of periods and move a couple of zeros in different directions, and they'll be treated as called a white collar crime. And these young people, many things that they do out here in the streets are not really of a criminal nature. It's more of a mischievous nature. And as time picks up and as the numbers needed to cross these numbers, that they're picked up. And my job is to, as I do the orientation for all the rookie cops coming into the department. And I tell them, I says, we're in competition with each other. I want those same young hearts and minds that you're out there. I want to be able to get them all and let you become idle if necessary.
I'm kind of getting a signal, so I want to ask you this question. You mentioned earlier about the Crown Heights uprising, and it's coming up on the 20th anniversary. Yes. Well, just tell us, share with everyone how you were able to help to quell or bridge that gap between both groups of people sharing this one space.
Again, as an old captain used to say, in Crown Heights, there's blacks, blues, and Jews. And I was able to get all three of those elements talking to each other.
Okay.
We were like two ships passing in the night. And I says, okay, let's talk to each other. I would say to the police officer, says, okay, if you just hold off a little while, I'll get these young people back.
Okay.
I'll get them back across.
Okay.
You want them across that block, I'll get them over there. And a lot of times they were able, it was an old chief named Gallagher, he was able to work with us, and that helped Crown Heights the first couple of nights to quell.
Okay.
And then after that, we were just sort of just backing up and doing the things.
Where does Rabbi Sher Heck come in to all this?
Oh, Rabbi Sher Heck was one of those leaders in the Hasidic community who I've worked with over the many years. In fact, I get an email from him every week.
Okay.
He'll send me an email, just even a joke. He'll send me an email.
Do you think the relationship, though, between all entities is much better today?
Absolutely, absolutely. We can contact each other. We have cell phones. I can pick up the phone and call somebody, and they'll listen up, and thankful, as I said again. I've been fortunate, as you know, my wife works with us.
Yes.
She's worked with me many years, and the understanding, they say, beside every good man is a good woman.
Naturally.
And she's been beside me and my
She's
family.
actually the principal of the school
Was
when
the principal.
it was over.
She's now a professor and assistant to the dean up at City
Yes.
College. She was here at Medgar.
She's going to be on my program coming up
Oh,
soon.
beautiful,
yes,
beautiful,
for
beautiful,
Women's
beautiful,
History Month.
beautiful.
I've invited her, and
Yeah.
hopefully, if her schedule permits, she'll be on that program.
Absolutely.
So I am actually looking forward to that.
Then I also want to share this. This is what I did some time ago, a book called Tags,
Okay.
which I took the graffiti artists and told them to get it off the street, get it off the buildings, and put it in a book.
Okay.
And I was able to put this together, and that helped to quell graffiti.
Okay. Okay.
So these are the kinds of things that we do every day. My job is to do the things I always say, the middle relief pitcher in baseball.
Okay.
It's the person who just comes in the game and just hold these young people, keep them 2 runs down if they 2 runs down. If they're 2 runs up, we keep them 2 runs up. And prayerfully. And then my night job, I teach here at Medgar, so I teach. In fact, I think you were one of my students at one time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of
And
course.
I'm proud of you from whence you came, for the things you've done. I remember you working hard in
Yes.
class. So that's my.
I know we're pressed for time right
Mhm.
now, but I definitely, one of the things that I want people to know about you, and actually your colleague, Safia Bandelli, Professor Safia Bandelli, brought this to my attention. But she talks about the number of people that your commitment to youth, and the number of people who you actually help through your programs. But then she talks about your commitment to those who actually didn't make it.
Yeah.
And I know it's not something that you like to reflect on, but I would like the audience to get a sense of really who you are. You go to every funeral. You have gone to every funeral of the youths who passed on. Can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Well,
for me?
every one of them was so importantly special, and this is why I think Sophia was talking about this.
Yes.
This is all the young people who have been part of funeralizing.
Okay.
In this patch, the senior citizen would probably be 30, and the baby would be 4.
Wow.
And every one of them is so important. They're all ancestors, and I think of each of them at some point in time in my day. I'll ride down the block where the issue took place,
Yeah.
and they'll come across to me. I remember the last thing Raisin said to me before he left. To me, that is one of the most difficult parts of this work, is that when you see a young person who you've nurtured and brought up, and then all of a sudden they're gone. And then the family, to continue to stay in touch with the family, that's important. I get calls from family members, years and years go by, and we still stay in contact. I've seen a young person left here in 1985, and I'm still in contact with the family.
Yes.
And that's important. The family just need to have that kind of support. I think Miriam McLeod Bethune actually, and they would say how important it is for us to remake the world.
Right.
But the other side of that is just being able to nourish these young people and nourish the world, pick them up and just nourish them.
Okay.
And the family members.
Well, I want to thank you for stopping by. I am
pleasure.
actually going to be joining you later at some of your
good,
places, so
good.
I look forward to doing that. Continue doing the work that you have been doing.
And you likewise.
And I would like for you to come back, because there's so much more that we didn't get to talk about today, and so many other people out there who help you to do what you do. So I want to just thank you for stopping by.
My pleasure.
Continue doing
You know
great
how to
work.
reach me.
I will. This is Unlimited. I want to thank Professor Richard Green. Until next time, same place, be well.